Hello, everybody. My name is Jon Sayles. Working with Bill Swick on some guitarists in the classroom video series for you folks. And today we have the honor and enjoyment of speaking to Dr. Alan Hirsh, guitarist instructor at Bishop McGuinness High School in North Carolina. He's got an outstanding program. I'll let him tell you about it. So Alan, let's start with your guitar background and your program background. So just go ahead and take it. I mean, guitar was your primary instrument, right, in college?
Right. Well, I studied guitar in undergraduate University of Arizona in Tucson,
Okay.
and I didn't really care for the performance egos, so I switched over to composition at that point.
Huh.
So I was actually a composition major, and I minored in guitar. So I did do a little recital there, but really my focus was composition. And during that time at the University of Arizona, I wrote this piece that was actually, I think it was a commission for the Toronto Guitar Society, Guitar 83 or something like that. And that piece was kind of pivotal for me because then when I got to grad school, I continued to study composition, but I was at the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore.
Okay.
And studied composition there. But at the time, Aaron Shearer, the very famous guitar pedagogue, was teaching there, and he heard this piece that I had written, and all the kids all the students were excited that that Aaron liked my piece so much. Some of those students played it, and they all told me, "Hey, Mr. Shearer is going to be contacting you soon." So that was pretty exciting for me. I didn't know what it was all about, but I guess about halfway through my graduate studies at Peabody, Aaron Shearer left and went down to the North Carolina School of the Arts here in Winston-Salem, where I live now, and took on the position there. And he gave me a call one day, and he said, "Hey, I'd love for you to write some music for me on my new method books." This was the Mel Bay, it was the Mel Bay Learning the Classic Guitar series. He's done so many guitar method series.
Every single classical guitarist has done and knows of Aaron Shearer. Right up there with Segovia.
Exactly, right. So I was honored to be his composer, and I had to kind of learn how to write for him because the way I was writing was definitely not what he was wanting. He liked how I wrote for the guitar, my knowledge of the guitar, but when he actually took me on as his composer for Learning the Classic Guitar series, everything that I started to write for him was thumbs down. He didn't like it. He did, "This is too hard for students."
Right. Yeah. I've had to follow a methodology and technology.
Right. So he really kind of opened my eyes on how I should write for the beginning guitarist, and really made me sensitive to what a beginner goes through. And that was really a big turning point in my life because it really made me, I think, a better teacher. I never really studied guitar with him, but just working with him very closely on this project really was the best education I could have had.
That's right.
And then that story. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I said it's a really great story.
Yeah. So eventually that's why we moved to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, so I could work more closely with him. We finished that project, the Learning the Classic Guitar series, in the late '80s, and then I started working with him on his last series, which was the Shearer method, which he didn't live to see to print, but we worked off and on until his death in 2008. And then we got it all together. My colleague Thomas Kitka, who is also part of the Aaron Shearer Foundation that I work for, we got it to publication through Alfred Music. So
it's really cool. What a great story. Yeah, hard to top that. So tell me a little about the guitar program at Bishop McGuinness. Talk about the classes you teach, the types of grades, and just go ahead and sally forth. Yeah.
Well, first I need to preface that I am no longer teaching there. That I retired last year, but I did teach there for 25 years, and I did start the guitar program, and
you started. Okay.
So I really saw the whole thing just explode. I was lucky to be at a private school. At a private school, it's a small student body. We had between, at the high point, maybe close to 500 students, and at lower points, maybe 350. So it kind of fluctuated around there. So that means that, all the classes are going to be nice and small and manageable. And that is definitely a luxury when you're teaching guitar, class guitar, of course. But, for me, as soon as I came into the Bishop McGuinness with really, there was hardly any offerings at the time. I was kind of, twiddling my thumbs half the day trying to figure out where are the students. I had like 2 sections of music appreciation and an orchestra class of about 5 kids who didn't read any music, and it was a real frustration for me that first year. But the next year, once my presence was known there and I was interacting with students, then I offered guitar, and it just filled up. I had a beginning guitar class, and then the next year was a beginning and an intermediate guitar class, and then it turned into beginning, intermediate, and honors guitar ensemble class. So it just built itself over the years because every kid wants to learn how to play guitar. So no barriers there. It just was a cool thing to do, and kids wanted to do it. And I know that as a private school, I could get students to buy their own instruments, whereas at a public school, I do have friends who teach in public schools, and the schools buy all of the instruments, and some of the instruments are in pretty bad disrepair and are in constantly need of upkeep and maintenance. And I didn't really have to do that aside from specialty guitars. I did buy some specialty guitars. I'll show you one. This is a must-have for every guitar program. This thing is a contrabass.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds an octave lower.
Very cool. Yeah, I've seen those on the recording. Yeah. Yeah,
they're great. So I did get the school to buy one of those, and I got the school to buy some requintos, which are each string sounds a fourth higher. So I had a good setup for guitar ensemble. But as far as guitars for students, everyone bought their own, and you can get some good entry-level guitars for a couple $100 for $200. There's the Cordobas and the Yamahas, and so
yeah, yep. Okay, so they bring their own guitars to school every day, and how often do you meet with them? And tell me a little bit about the actual class.
Yeah.
How much technique? What kind of technique? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. So guitar met every day, 5 days a week. Still does. There's a whole lot of organization that goes into kids bringing their guitars to and from school. I'm insistent on day one that they put their names on their instruments and all of their equipment. In spite of all that, they still manage to lose things or not take care of things. There were issues of liability. If kids brought in their own guitar and they stored them where they were supposed to be, everything was fine. But if a kid left their guitar on the floor and some kid was running down the hall and stuff, that's a tough thing. The school's not responsible for stuff like that. But as long as you make that clear at the outset, the responsibility that every student has with their instrument. So we would meet every day, and I of course am strongly affiliated with Aaron Shear, so I had a built-in method that I started from day one that I was intimate with, and that method just has such a great sequence, especially the right-hand sequence is just, for me, it's been incredible. And all the materials that were written for that sequence were written by me. I mean, all the musical materials, and there is no like written out left-hand sequence, except that it's kind of there. It's just in the background. It is definitely there. It's not like Shear didn't really write so much about left-hand sequence. He was really all into the right-hand sequence. But when you're building a sequence, and the pieces that you introduce have to be incrementally more challenging, and that includes left-hand. So the left-hand sequence is there. It's just not up front. But anyway, that was the content that I used for the teaching. And then, I was teaching a class full of, up to 25, maybe maximum 25 students. That was a challenge for me. But, I quickly learned how to manage that. And
how did you do it? Did you arrange them in a circle, or were they facing you? Like a semicircle?
I had a large rehearsal room that I had all my orchestra class and my chorus and all the other classes were in that. But I'll tell you something. There's a strap in fact, it's the Shear strap. I never really liked the shears. Now, I'm not getting in trouble saying this. I'm not really into the shear strap in terms of my own personal playing. But I do respect what it does. It puts the focus onto your left hand. It makes the left hand and arm a lot more aligned.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't really care for it on my neck. Anyway, having said that, which I know is getting me into trouble for saying that, it's incredible for teaching, for classroom teaching, because you are now you're able to walk around and demonstrate at the same time.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that anytime. I mean, otherwise, you do the flamingo guitar, which is, standing on one leg, flamingo style, like a flamingo.
Yeah.
And that's not fun at all. But I mean, you really need to get in there and, and look at what people are doing up close.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, I had no problem with just going over and tweaking a kid's position all the time. I'm not sure how that protocol should be met now, because we have to think about stuff like that. But definitely, there's a lot of hands-on adjusting of position. So I would really position the police. I'm sorry, police the position. That's my bad. I would definitely police that. I have to, the first a couple of months, you really got to just have a hawk eye, just looking at all the kids as you're teaching some content. And even if it's something that's, you're way beyond that first lesson of setting the position, it still needs to be reinforced because, positioning is the foundation of all technique, right? So, if you just let that slide, and I've observed guitar classroom teaching where that is not happening, and where kids are, they start, deviating, their hands are out of, alignment, and that just creates all kinds of problems, with the technique that shouldn't be there. So that policing the position is a real big thing for me. The other thing, classroom management. I quickly learned what that has to be, because if you get a kid, you're like, say you're coming in maybe 7th period of the day, the kids have been sitting behind a desk all day long, taking notes or listening to lectures. Then they come to guitar class, think, oh, it's jam time.
Yeah.
And so you really have to enforce a very strict policy from the get-go. And you just, once that's established, it just works. It just kind of maintains itself. But if you don't establish that, there are definitely problems to be confronted with. But my main rule is, you do not play unless you're told to.
Right. Yeah. When I was studying music education at Hart College, there was a famous phrase that you don't smile before Thanksgiving.
I'm sorry, you
don't smile before Thanksgiving.
Oh, right, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
probably true. That's probably true.
Seems to work. Okay, so now
I was going to mention one other really important point, unless you think you want to move on to something else.
No.
So the managing of their behavior in terms of asking them not to play until they don't play until they're told so. The other part of managing them on a day-to-day basis is, for me at least, was to give them little assignments, little expectations of what they had to do the next day, a graded task. Maybe you're learning a piece. Maybe you're learning a piece that's 16 measures long, and the very first day you introduce the piece, and you only talk about the first 4 measures, or maybe the first 8 measures. However long your class periods are. Mine were about 47, close to an hour long, 50 minutes. If you have the time to really get into the piece, I would do it one segment at a time. Of course, there's also other stuff too in terms of like introducing new technique if that's there. But what I was going to say is that a way to keep students on task is to give them a little assigned evaluations. So say they have to do a new piece, they have to learn the first 4 or 8 measures and have that ready for the next day. And you make sure you go through those 8 measures very carefully. And I do all sorts of, this is very sheer, like we do pre-reading, a lot of visualization where they like vocalize and air guitars, or C, D, E, F, or something like that, or they just clarify what their right hand's doing, or they clarify only what their left hand's doing, and then we put it all together. But really dissect it into all the parts and just focusing on 8 measures, and that takes the whole period. And then I say, hey, now you got to have this ready to play for tomorrow for a grade, 8 measures. It's a small task, nothing too unreasonable. And that's great, because then the next day, right after they get their guitar and they're ready to get to start class, rather than playing Stairway to Heaven or jamming or something, they know that they're about to get graded. So they're picking up the guitar and they're getting right to the task. In some cases, students feel like they need to take their guitar home and overnight if they felt like they didn't quite get it during the day. But usually during that first class day, when I introduce the material, I'm feeling pretty good that I've talked about everything I need to talk about, and the students are, and I'm looking for the feedback that says this seem like doable, and we got this. So little tiny, lots of little tiny grades like that, especially in the beginning. As you get later into the semester, you can assign larger pieces, more project type, longer term pieces.
All right. So speaking of Stairway to Heaven, what are the styles of music that you used to do? I mean, was it all classical, or was it a mix of jazz and classical, or Christmas carols and jazz and classical?
Yeah, absolutely, all of that. So I am, as the music director at the school, I taught not just guitar, but I had chorus and orchestra, and so I was able to. And I'm also an arranger. I do a whole lot of arranging and composing. I give a plug for my website, which is guitarensemblemusic.com. It's a catalog of guitar arrangements. But and I wrote a lot of those for my students, and in many cases, I would mix things in. So we do Christmas carols or Christmas pieces that would involve the singers, or we'd have guitar and violins.
Oh, that's nice.
Guitar,
that's very
clarinet,
nice.
and marimba. Whatever I could throw in. And it's a great. It makes it more exciting. But in terms of styles, when we're talking about like a foundation class, there is no real choice they don't have a menu of what they can do or what they can't do. I'm giving them what they need to do. When they get after that first year, foundational year, then we start, because the foundational year is not performance oriented, but the other guitar classes were, you have to do, concerts, and always on the concerts, I mixed it up with as much musical variety as possible. So we had, we did a Vivaldi piece, but we also did a Radiohead piece. We did all kinds of things, musical styles, and, just really engaged their interests. For me, that was all about just, let your creativity just unleash and just do anything that if a kid says, hey, I'd really like to do some Led Zeppelin. Well, maybe I don't have any Led Zeppelin available, but I might look at arranging something. But, it's really about developing musical literacy. That's, it doesn't, to me, that what you end up playing is secondary to what you achieve in terms of musicianship and in terms of technical foundation. All those things to me have to be in place, because I never did teach tab. It was always it's traditional music learning.
What about chord symbols? Did you ever teach chord?
Oh yeah. Well, chord charts, like jazz charts. I didn't really do much of that. I did that with my orchestra class a lot, but we did Toto Africa. It's written out. All the things that I did that were pop, the chords would be written out as they would be read on the guitar. But once, kids didn't need to have the charts. They knew that, I would tell them, they looked at a 6-note chord and they were still puzzling, about how to, interpret it. I would connect with them that that's an E major chord. And I do teach guitar harmony. That's another one of my areas. It's more than just reading notes. It's those notes together are words, and when you recognize the words, then you can articulate the musical sentences. So and that's something that Aaron Shearer started to do before his passing, but something that I carried to a new level, higher level. Tried to get through first year. If a student said to me, hey, what's an A minor chord, then something's wrong. If they don't know that, they need to know. That's something that we started teaching in the new Shear method. It was learning how to read notes, but also understanding how those notes come together to create chords. So chords are seriously important on our instrument.
Chords and inversions and all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And sevenths, ninths, 11ths, all that?
Absolutely, all that stuff. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So did you do public performances with the kids? So did you take them
Absolutely.
tour? Did you do
Absolutely.
recordings?
You know,
All of the above?
yes, but they're all such healthy activities. Public performances, absolutely. So I had the 3 different guitar levels or sections of classes. The ambassadors, the guitar ambassadors, were my honors guitar ensemble, and so we would do 2 community concerts a year through I'm involved with the Piedmont Classic Guitar Society. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I know.
I know there's the Triangle Guitar Society where you are.
Yeah.
But so our guitar society, I was one of the directors of that, and organized community concerts where high school guitar groups would come together and should be showcased for concerts.
Nice.
Christmas time and in spring. And then my group also went to the Appalachian State Guitar Fest. We did that every other year, it seems like. And we also went to the Long Island Guitar Festival every year, which was a great excuse for us just to go to see the fun stuff in New York City and Island. But yeah, those were such great community bonding experiences for our ensemble. And, you know, it's just, I can't imagine not doing, you know, any kind of performance with a group like that. You just have to get out in the world.
Yeah, that's great. So just the last 2 questions. The first is, what could you have used that wasn't available at the time that would have made your job easier, thinking back over the course of your career, especially at the beginning?
What could I have used?
Yeah, in terms of the technique or material or advice or videos or what?
Yeah, I mean, I had, you know, I felt like I was blessed to have a lot of inside information by working with Aaron Shearer, and I you know, being involved in several of his book projects. So I had all the content I needed in terms of that kind of teaching. I guess where I felt, and you know, it's probably a good thing for this, but definitely the body of guitar ensemble music when I was starting off was pretty scant. And that's what really, you know, inspired me to do my own. And you know, I think there's a whole lot of work time that went into that, but I guess it would have been nicer to have the kind of guitar ensemble music that I was looking for available. There was stuff available. I wasn't really that drawn to it because a lot of it was, you know, it's just a lot of single line, you know, like take a Bach chorale and just put a single line for each part. That doesn't really, you know, exploit the whole coloristic potential of the guitar. And I was interested in, you know, let's have different parts that you know, some that have some pizzicato or some, you know, tambura or some strumming or, you know, harmonics, all kinds of things that are that we want to hear with the guitar. So I didn't find there wasn't a lot of that out there, but it's a good thing because that really, you know, it pushed me to want to do more arranging.
Well, I think Bill told me there's something like 27,000 guitar ensemble pieces out there now that you can get.
I wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Crazy number like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question then, I'll let you go. Thank you for your time. What would you share with first-year teachers? So just first-year teachers, so, you know, someone who, not like you, didn't study with Aaron, wasn't an accomplished guitarist. So what would be your advice to first-year teachers going into this field and being faced with 8 to 10 to 12 guitar players sitting there staring at them?
Well, you know, some of the things that I've already said, I think are probably really important. I mean, I think, you know, you can have a good method. You can have, you know, you can come into a situation like that with a good method for teaching the guitar. And, but I think, you know, this idea about, you know, managing the classroom is so important. Really getting the most out of those players and getting them to, you know, really engage and not just be, you know, wasting their time or, you know, distracted. I think, you know, keeping them on task, very important. I would say also really important to get parents involved. The parent community for me was everything. I mean, once we did our first couple of concerts and the parents saw how exciting this ensemble was, they're willing to support it. I got, you know, the school's first contrabass which at that time was probably $1,000. Maybe it's now worth $2,000, but that was purchased by a parent of one of my students.
Oh, very
And, and then I got, when I started going to, do festivals, I got parents they wanted to come too. They wanted to, be a part of that and help me out with chaperone.
Oh, that's great.
And, I think in some cases, teachers feel like you got to push the parents away, but absolutely not. I think you really need to, embrace their support and show their appreciation, and they'll just send it right back to you with lots of love and financial support if you need it.
That's a terrific parting shot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it. Enjoyed it.
Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.